Good evening. Welcome to the monthly November meeting, November 13th of the Lynbrook Board of Education. We'll begin with a pledge to the flag. If we could all rise. Mr. Paleshi will lead us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As usual, I'm sitting in the middle. I should have taken that seat. Roll call. All are present tonight but Mr. Murray, who is out ill. If there are no changes, may I have a motion to accept the minutes of the October 9th, 2024 monthly meeting? Oh, I can look over here now. Ms. Kelly, second. Ms. Argona, all in favor? Mr. Kuntz, Art Gallery, please. Oh, thank you.
The Burn-Siderman Gallery is proud to present the Lynbrook High School National Art Honor Society's Gifted 2024 Online Art Auction Show. This year's online art auction features stunning fall landscapes painted by over 30 talented NAHS members. Each artwork captures the beauty of autumn, showcasing vibrant colors and a unique perspective from our student artists. Funds raised from the auction will go towards purchasing Target gift cards, which will be distributed to Lynbrook families in need during the holiday season. This initiative not only highlights the creativity of our students, but also strengthens our community, ensuring that everyone can enjoy a brighter holiday. Bidding opened this morning at 9 a.m. Each artwork in the gallery has a QR code located on the bottom right corner, which can be scanned to place a bid. The auction will be open from now until November 30th at 9 p.m. If you'd like to support us further, you can also make donations by scanning the Donate Here signs on the front of the gallery. Thank you for your support and happy bidding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuntz. Dr. Lynch, presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Belmont. Before we start the presentations, I want to mention something about the art gallery. Over at Atlantic Avenue tonight, we had our first ever, the kids from the middle schools had done their art, and we invited so it's on display at Atlantic Avenue, so we invited their parents into a soiree tonight. So they had not quite champagne, but they had water and cookies, and people got to take pictures with their kids' artwork, and I think people really enjoyed it. So thank Mrs. Schaefer for putting that new initiative together, and maybe people in this audience right now may get an invitation going forward, so it's great. All right, so we are proud to announce that we have a Coca-Cola Scholar semifinalist. What is a Coca-Cola Scholar semifinalist? So this is a program that is based on academic excellence, leadership, and service. At this point, there are only 1,300 kids recognized out of 150,000 applicants, and one of them is our very own Katie Gottlieb. All right, and we're proud to honor another student tonight. So what is the Heart of a Giant Award? So USA Football has a program in cooperation with the Hospital for Special Surgery, and they honor student athletes who are of extraordinary character and are of extraordinary leadership abilities. And what happens is you have a massive vote. And I know everybody in this audience knows this because I can't tell you how many times I voted, but we all got around. And now we actually have a semifinalist in our midst, which means that he is on his way to possibly, I mean, he's definitely going to be at Giant Stadium, and he's definitely going to be at the game introduced, but he could move on to be an absolute finalist. So we're going to introduce tonight Omarion McLean.
Is the video good? Oh, if it's not, it will be. All right, so if you have an opportunity to look at the video that was put together on Omar's behalf, that was part of the process, the video itself is extremely impressive, and it'll be impressive to see what the coaches say about him. We have a great coaching staff. It's just one of the reasons why sports is such a vital part of our lives. The lessons our kids learn. But take the time to listen to what his teammates have to say about him. That's the most insightful thing, to see what 15, 16, and 17-year-olds, how empathetic they are, how they understand each other. It's extremely impressive. It's a great credit to you, Omar, to your father for that whole process, but take the time to the few minutes to see it, listen to it, and hear what his teammates have to say. And congratulations again, and good luck.
All right, and we have some big announcements regarding AP Scholars. So, an AP Scholar means that you got a 3 or higher on 3 or more exams. An AP with honors mean that you got a 3.25 on all exams and a 3 or more on 4 exams. And an AP with distinction means you get a 3.5 on all taken, a 3 or more, and a 5 on 5 of these exams. So we are proud to announce that we have 57 AP Scholars, 18 AP Scholars with distinction, and 18 AP Scholars with honor, and 41 AP Scholars with distinction, bringing the total to 116 AP Scholars at the district. Shoobity boobity boobity boodooty wop. Pretty good, right? I think you want the board to move to the front row.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Barry Weiner. I'm here with the fantastically talented cast of Grease. We are opening next week right here at the high school. Performances are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night of next week. But I recommend you get your tickets quickly because they are going fast. There's only a few left. There's QR codes hanging around the building, or you can see us for the website. We will be performing the opening number of the show, which I won't explain because you probably already know Grease. This is Summer Nights, which kind of sets up the story. And if you're a great audience, we'll maybe throw in one additional number as well. So please enjoy the cast of Grease. Summer loving had me a blast.
Summer loving happened so fast.
I met a girl crazy for me.
Met a boy cute as can be.
Summer days drifting away to all those summer nights. Tell me more, come on, let's hear the dirt.
Tell me more, does he drive a Cumber?
Took her bowling in the arcade.
We were showing drink the other day.
We met out under the dock.
We stayed out till 10 o'clock.
Summer flame don't mean a thing, but all those summer nights. Tell me more, you don't have to brag.
Tell me more, 'cause he sounds like a drag. He got friendly, holding my hand. She got friendly down the stairs. Put the sweet cup, just turned 18. She was young, you know what I mean. Summer heat, boy and girl meet there. All the summer guys. Tell me more, how much dough did he spend? Tell me more, did she get me a friend? It turned older, that's where it ends.
So I told her we'd still be friends.
Then we made our true love vow.
Wonder what she's doing now.
Summer dreams ripped at the seams, but oh, those summer I got chills, they're multiplying, and I'm losing control. 'Cause the power that you're supplying is electrifying. You better shape up, 'cause I need you. And my heart is set on you. And my heart is set on you. You better understand. To my heart I must be true. Nothing left for me to do. You're the one that I want. You are the one for you, honey. The one that I want. You are the one for you, honey. The one that I want. You are the one for you. You're all I need. All I need. Oh yes indeed. Yes, indeed. If you're filled with affection, you're too shy to convey. Meditate in my direction. Feel your way. I gotta shake up. 'Cause you need a man. I need a man. Who can keep me satisfied. Keep me satisfied. 'Cause I'm gonna do bad through. None of this is justified. Are you sure? 'Cause I'm sure down deep inside. You're the one that I want. You are the one for you, honey. The one that I want. You are the one for you, honey. The one that I want. You are the one for you. You're all I need. All I need. Oh yes indeed. Yes, indeed. You're the one that I want. You are the one for you, honey. The one that I want. You are the one for you, honey. The one that I want. You are the one for you. You're all I need. All I need. Oh yes indeed. Yes, indeed. You're the one that I want.
So I have one, because I know something that I wanted to share with the audience. I gotta ask the kids, I saw a video today that was so those of you who are of my generation, okay, so this was a very important movie for us, if you're of a certain age. And these kids had a Zoom call with the one and only Dee Dee Khan. And she could not have been, more adorable. At 73 years old, she acts like a teenager. It was just incredible. So if we could just, what was it like talking to the actual Dee Dee Khan? Kind of some of the stuff that she talked you through. I thought she answered some of your questions really well. So do you want to just kind of pass it around?
For me personally, I think it was very special speaking to her because I am playing Frenchie in the show. So, yeah. Okay. getting to speak to the original iconic Frenchie was such a special experience, and I felt like I really connected with her. As for the rest of us, she gave such great advice, and I think her positive energy just really radiated and like connected with us, and I think that's why we were able to do such a good preliminary performance tonight. Anyone else wants to add something?
Sure. So I introduced myself and she's like, oh, well, what's your name? And she kind of gave everyone a chance to speak, which was really like refreshing because like you'd expect people who obviously like she's really important in the industry and like has impacted so many people. It's like not really like you wouldn't expect her to be so like kind and like refreshing to talk to, which was really like inspirational. So that was cool.
Honestly, she was really adorable. When we sang We Go Together, she was like bopping along. It was so sweet. And also, she had like a really positive attitude about everything. She was like really, she was smiling a lot. And it was just really nice to see her be so positive about everything. Anyone else?
Aaliyah, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So speaking to her was definitely very like mind-opening. Like earlier in the week, we went to see the Outsiders in concert choir, and it's just been like a very emotional week. So I've been an emotional mess. So I guess like talking to her, like she said nothing sad at all, but like just seeing how happy and joyful she was, and like kind and caring and helpful. Like I literally was like almost crying, and everyone's like, "Why are you crying?" Like we're singing "We Go Together," and I'm like mid like sob, looking at Ryan. Like she was just phenomenal. Like I love her so much. And I think that's a wrap.
I don't know about you, Mr. Belmont, but I can't wait to discuss regionalization. That's definitely going to be the highlight. It's going to be the highlight of this meeting. I think so. This was.
That's not even next. Report from trustees. Mr. Luna, PTA liaison.
So the PTA just wanted, the PTA just wanted me to pass along their thanks for everyone who came out and attended the Parent University, and also for those who supported the Fly by the Owls 5K recently. Both events were really well attended, and I've heard nothing but great reports from those who did attend. It was very fun, great experience. As always, PTA Scholarship Drive is taking donations year round. It's a good cause. If anyone wants to donate, reach out to the PTA rep in your building or contact the Council of PTAs for more information. Thank you.
Mrs. Kelly.
So the DEI Diversity Council met on October 24th. After our initial introductions, there were 3 presentations about the profile of the owl, the NYSBA, a New York State School Boards Association report, and the New York State Education Department report. Profile of the Owl focused on the community's thoughts related to diversity, and the latter 2 presentations focused on the definitions of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the efforts that must include all students. The buildings reported various happenings and inclusive efforts, such as building welcoming activities, peer leadership activities, collaborations between buildings, cultural activities, overall wellness, and Unity Week activities. Finally, there was an open discussion regarding how to better include families in district activities, and future meeting dates were announced.
You've done that so well. Do you want to talk about adult education?
So our Adult Education Committee met this afternoon. I think we had a really good first meeting for the year. We discussed, first we looked at a comparison of last year's course offerings and enrollment to where we are currently. We talked about potential ideas for new courses in the springtime, the possibility of moving to online registration down the road. We also are looking to see what the community's feedback would be on the QR code and the postcards that were used, because there were just a slight dip in enrollment, and we want to see, did that QR code have anything to do with it? But all in all, I think it was a great first discussion, and we're looking forward to see how the courses for the fall season go.
Anything else from any other board members? Mrs. Danino?
Sure. I just wanted to mention that I attended the Parent University, and it was so well attended. And it's just a great opportunity to see the partnership that we have with the Northwell. And we all know how hard it is when you need to get an appointment for mental health services. And, you know, it's a resource that you can take advantage of. There are some links on the website that if you need, you can look, and there will be other things that are offered as well. And it's something we really should all take advantage of, because there are so many services and like online courses. This was about an anxious child, and we know that so many more children are anxious today. And there are some resources and some webinars that you can watch in your own time if you weren't able to come that day.
And I'll tell you what was very impressive about her presentation was, if you have an anxious child or any of those issues, she wasn't about telling you, oh, placate that child, give in to that child. She did a great job of, in essence, telling you that you can't do that there's coping mechanisms. So in simplest forms, your kid says they don't want to go to school. She wasn't about saying, oh, keep the kid home. She was giving you coping mechanisms and tools to get your kid back to school, to get them where we want to be. I just thought it was a pretty refreshing approach to some of the other aspects we've heard, so that was great. Anything else from any other board members?
This past week, I attended at Waverly Park the annual Veterans Day presentation that they have every year. It's really an incredibly touching, really nice presentation. Waverly does a great job. They had a number of members of the armed forces who were related to children in the school come, and they honored them. And it was just a really nice, touching event. I go most years. Ms. Danino was with me there. I think we all thought it was a really, Dr. Berman was there as well. I think we all really enjoyed ourselves. So just a shout out to Waverly Park on that.
And Marion Street and West End, they were actually, all three elementary schools did Veterans Day. So it was really similar programs. It was great.
Anything else on the board? All right, moving on with the meeting. We're going to be talking about NYSERD updates with the Blue Ribbon Commission as well as state aid. We'll start with, just as a show of hands, who's here to talk about regionalization in the audience? Listen, I mean, just to hear about it. Yeah, I just wanted to say a part about it. So, as you're aware, there's several big issues coming out of Albany. We've been involved in that topic of regionalization, horrible name for what it is. Dr. Lynch has attended meetings and webinars along with other board members, but I'll turn it over to Dr. Lynch now to hopefully be brief, direct, comprehensive explanation of what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Belmont. So, to say that regionalization came as a surprise to superintendents would be an understatement. So I will just kind of say how I learned about it. I woke up on a Friday morning, and for those of you who know, I get in at an insanely early time. And one of my things that I do every morning is once a week I go into the state portal to make sure, I don't owe anything to the state. And there was this new survey that had to be reported, and I had read roughly that something was going on with regionalization, and I kind of click on it and I see a 44-page report that has to be filled out by November 1st. So I called Dr. Balekis. I'm like, have you heard about this? And he's like, no. And I had literally picked up the phone and called other superintendents. I said, have you guys heard about this? Like, yeah, we're going to talk about it. So what apparently had happened is over the summer, the regions passed an emergency regulation that basically required districts to fill out a survey and to participate in what they're calling convening. So that's kind of what we have to do. Those are the requirements that are set on me. So Dr. Belekas and I went, actually, Dr. Belekas, don't you love when superintendents say things like Dr. Belekas and I, and it's really he who did all the work? I really like that about this new job. Dr. Belekas filled out this 44-page report, and I read it, and it's, and so we haven't submitted it to the state yet. And eventually we started to hear rumblings about really the questions that were coming out of school boards that were asking the question, why an emergency regulation, why now, and what is this all about? I will say that what alarmed me, and I think the board has some definite opinions on this, I'm just talking about my reaction to this. So I attended every meeting, I attended every webinar, several board members attended these webinars. So what I understand what the big public discussion about is, and I think the board is going to have some interesting discussion about local control. But my concern is the reason the state said why they put together this as an emergency regulation is because they were assuming state aid was going to be drastically cut. So if you remember in September, we had an empty audience, literally an empty audience, and we painted a bleak picture of next year's budget. And all this did is they said, listen, we needed to have this data from you because we need to advocate on your behalf to get this budget, get services to schools. So as a former business official and a superintendent who's trying to balance a budget, that really concerned me. And I was really saying now we have to really even look harder at some of these things. And simultaneously, the new Regents diploma standards come out, and there's some talk about foundation aid. And then literally you started to hear it bubble up from other communities. Our board, I have to tell you, I always, they do so much work that you don't see, so I just need to let you know that. And they're only allowed to talk once a month or twice a month, so they can only discuss a topic when they are constituted as a board. So I think they've been kind of thinking and reading and participating, and I think this is really the chance that I would like to turn it right back to you guys to say, I think you've been reflecting on these things, and I think we'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the matter.
All right, since I'm usually shy about speaking, I'll just go first. Just so everyone understands what regionalization is, because it's a term that gets thrown around without a definition. If you look at the statute, actually, there's no definition included. But what they're talking about in regionalization is having districts that are in the same region, regionalization, share certain services. Now, in concept, that's not a bad goal, right? If we offer something that another district doesn't, if there's a way for districts to combine or to combine a need and meet that need together, whether it's transportation, BOCES, that's a good goal. There's nothing wrong with that. However, what regionalization a lot of people are worried about, and I've read pretty much every single thing that's come out on this, is that this is a first step of many towards taking away local control. And instead of having the Lynbrook School District, the East Rockaway School District, the Malvern School District, we would have the Nassau County School District, just like New York City has. That's a real concern, because this legislation is being passed, or it's already been passed, as an emergency legislation. There's no emergency. Secondarily, it's being put in as mandatory. So there was language out of New York State, or there was certain webinars and certain statements made that this is not going to be mandatory, it's going to be optional, there's going to be an opt-out. If you read the actual legislation, this is 100% mandatory. There is no way to opt out of it. Every district is subject to this, and there's no emergency. What's the emergency is New York State has come out and said, we are going to cut your foundation aid, so we're going to gut your budget. We're creating an emergency, and here's the solution. We have emergency legislation. It's really one of the greatest bait and switch type things I've seen, right? We're going to set your house on fire, and now we're going to pass a legislation as to how to put out that fire. Well, why did you just not set it on fire in the first place? So the state is already threatening to cut foundation aid, and this is their solution. The simple solution would be not to cut foundation aid, because every district on the island relies on it. So I have a ton of concerns about this, and I think, I've spoken with a number of people on school boards at other districts, people in the administration. This is something that every district on Long Island is concerned about. It's especially a concern for a district like ours that has two features. One, we abut other districts that may not have as many services, including Queens. We are a border Long Island district that is very close to the Queens border. Under the statute, if you really read it and dig deep into it, it's possible that we could have kids from Queens coming here because we offer so many things that the New York City schools don't, and it's just a 2-mile ride down into Queens. It's not out of contention that could happen here. The other feature that we have is that, and a little boast for Lynbrook, we are doing things better, I believe, and we offer certainly more than some of the surrounding districts may offer, which means we are a have district, and have-not district will be now getting stuff from us. We're going to give more than we're going to get. So to me, this is a real concern, and it should really worry everyone out there, because ultimately, if we lose local control, and we lose having school boards, and we lose the character of this district and become part of the Nassau County School District, we're not going to be Lynbrook anymore.
And just to add to what Mr. Luna said, the language in this proposal is left very vague on purpose. That's how they get to twist and do what they'd like to do after, we're forced to do what they want us to do. We've been told by state officials that it's optional, but the language within the proposal does not back that up in the least. So this is 100% a concern. It's 100% something we need to take a strong stand against, because part of the reason why we're in this community is for the districts and for us to just be forced to share all our resources with anybody who comes along. It doesn't seem like what we signed up for when we bought homes in this district.
To add on to what Mr. Pileski said, it kind of lacks information. Like, there's a lot of information out there, but it kind of lacks substance. I attended the webinar, and I felt like there was no substance to the webinar. They told you what regionalization is, why they want to do it, but they didn't really go into the how. They didn't go into who's paying for what, and it just never went into the details of it. So for me, it's very wishy-washy, kind of feels rushed, fly by the seat of their pants. I just don't think it's a great idea.
I also attended the webinar, and I also sat through a meeting where it was discussed a little bit by NYSET, and I've left with more questions than when I started the meetings. I feel like we've had reasons not to trust before, and this is giving us even more. And I think that as a board, we need to do something together to show that we're not trusting this. So, I don't think we can just sit back.
And I just want to add, it sounds great too, combining resources, but we do have the opportunity to do that now if necessary, correct? Without having regionalization.
Right. If they said, we're going to all work together to bid on cheaper busing for everybody, that's wonderful. But if they're going to say, now you're going to take 20 students from another district and you have no other options, that's a whole different story.
Well, but I think Ms. Aragona hit on a really important point. We can already do this on our own, and we do this. I mean, Dr. Berman's shaking her head because she knows, well, she's nodding her head, not shaking her head. She's nodding her head because she knows she already does this in terms of matching up transportation, matching up resources. We do this. We do it through BOCES, and we do it on our own with local districts. So we don't need mandatory legislation to achieve the goal of districts working together to cut costs. Great goal. I think one of the points that, Mr. Pileski said is, and it's Pileski, Bill, not Pileski, just so you know, that Mr. Pileski
I'm well aware
said,
of the proper pronunciation of the name.
You've known him longer than I have. So, no, but one of the points that Mr. Pileski raised is a really important one. It's not what we signed up for. When we all bought homes in this district, we're paying very high taxes. We know that, right? Nobody's happy about the taxes on Long Island, but our taxes are very high. In exchange for that, we get a lot in our schools. We have great teachers, we have great services, we have great classes, great sports programs. It really would be inherently unfair for us to continue paying these same sky-high taxes and to be subsidizing neighboring districts that are paying half the taxes we are and not getting the services. So we're going to continue to pay $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 per house for taxes when someone who's paying $11,000 in another district because they chose to move there is now just going to come to Lynbrook and get these services. It's not only bad for the schools, it's also going to be devastating for home values across Long Island in an area like ours, which tend to be on the higher end of things.
And it makes you think about the whole Blue Ribbon Plan with, when we're looking at different offerings and different pathways, is this all tied together, and is this what they're thinking, and is this their sneaky plan?
And to kind of join on to what Mrs. Danino just said, here's my concern. One, the first concern is the timeline. This was initially put out with an 18 months to 3 years timeline last spring. People thought they had time. We'll discuss it. You get together with your neighboring superintendents, neighboring districts, even other areas. Then they truncated that to 6 months. During the same time frame, where they brought it down to 6 months, they put forth our new graduation measures, which will revolutionize by the time, now correct me if I'm wrong, our 7th graders will be the first cohort to be under those new graduation
So class of
measures.
2026 is the last class under the old, the one that we all grew up in. Then it's a phase-in starting from there. It hits kind of a perfect storm with the current 7th graders, and then all in brand new system by the current 4th graders.
So a brand new system where we have to revamp what we do, how we gauge education, all the while threatening very strongly to cut our financial foundation aid. So districts have to figure out how to do more with far less. And now you're going to tell us scrap the model we've been using. You're no longer an independent school district. It's absolute lunacy. So they're all better spoken than me, but I told you I wouldn't hide what I feel, and that's what I feel.
And just one point I want to add. We're all talking about Albany did this, New York State did that. This is not a political issue. This is not a Republican-Democrat issue. This is not a whether you love or hate the current governor or anyone else in Albany. This is an issue. It's not a political issue. It's not. It should not be looked at in that regard at all, because you have a broad mix of districts, some of which lean left, some of which lean right. The thing they can all agree on, this is a disaster.
Well, I'm not going to get into a debate. I think it's totally a political issue because I think whoever your government makes these decisions. I think unfunded mandates, I think regionalization, I think getting involved in local school districts is a political issue. And I think certain political parties choose to be more involved. But Dr. Lynch now will give you some insight on what's actually taking place with what we have to do and not do. Understand SED, and I am no fan of SED. I mean, federal government wants to get rid of the federal education department. I'm very happy to get rid of the state education department. You know, we've been saying for 20 years I've been on this board, it's always the same thing. Things we do here have to get approved by them. Unfunded mandates, the first thing they should have talked about. This whole thing came out of their concern about the fiscal condition of the state and what they thought was going to happen with the economy and the money they were not going to have. The first thing they should have done was got rid of unfunded mandates. And you can Google, I won't take it, but that's the first thing they could have done. Get rid of unfunded mandates and see how much extra money you have. So that's the first thing. So Dr. Lynch will talk about that now as far as what the things are. But again, they never said they were doing that. The only politician who came out yesterday and said anything about it, when they came up with this, they're going to tell you it came out of their financial. They didn't say they were going to take our districts and combine them and do that. But the wording is so poorly done and so vague, it wasn't clear what they were going to do. So you have to be nervous about the fact that what were they really going to try to do. Understand how difficult it would be legally for them to do that. They don't really have the authority to do that. And at least one politician, because none of our local ones said anything, I even know the guy, Charles Levine, came out yesterday with a letter to all Nassau County superintendents and simply said there is no such danger, there is no such threat. Because that's really where the answer lies. We can get as excited as we want, we can write letters, you could sue who you want, but our legislature, our state senators and the state assemblymen, the ones you elect, are the ones that decide whether any of this is going to happen or not. And if Dr. Lynch, you can explain a little bit about what was asked and what we're providing.
Yes, I think it's very clear. So this is just an interesting thing about the Office of Superintendent. These people hire and fire me. You have to understand that on your behalf. So I report to a Board of Education. But at the same time, superintendents are a sworn officer of the state. So that when I am directed by the Commissioner of Education to do things, I am therefore obliged to do things on behalf that I'm directed to. So my read, and Counselor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, my read is that I am under 2 legal obligations at this time. One, by December 6th, that report that Dr. Balek has filled out, I need to submit and certify that and send it to Albany. And then there will be what are called convenings. So there are going to be meetings with our local BOCES, and I have to attend. I don't have to speak. I don't have to give a plan. I don't have to participate in the plan. I have to just be part of a convening. So I think those are the two things that I perceive myself as a superintendent have been required of me. And those are the things that are very clear. I have to say, this district in particular, NASA BOCES has always been a great partner of ours. Mr. Looney, you sit on their board on our behalf. We do over $5 million of business with BOCES every year. We send kids to their schools. We participate in their bids. They help us when I pick up the phone. They're always, so they've been kind of put as the middleman. Quite frankly, if Larry wants me to come over for a meeting, I'll go over for a meeting. I think that's really kind of what I'm looking at it as this point. However, at that, that does not mean that my board and my community don't have other concerns, but I think the submission of data is important, and to participate in the process. I don't see what benefit it does to not participate in the things that we've been asked to do quite, patently.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everyone should chime in, but my personal view is, yes, you've been ordered to do certain things. What you're being asked to do right now is just give data and attend meetings. There is no harm in giving data and attending meetings, and I don't think it would be fair of us to ask you to go against what you're being directed to do by a body that you have to report to. So my personal opinion is, yes, do those things. It's not going to stop the process if Lynbrook superintendent is the holdout that doesn't show up at the meeting. If it could, I would feel otherwise. But I think we do that and just continue to monitor it and report back to us and give, like you've been doing, and give us as much information as you can discern from both the people who are speaking and the people in the audience who may have concerns that you can discern from those people.
Dr. Lynch, when you reference this 44-page report, I'm assuming it contains data?
Yeah, that is one thing that was in the superintendent circle and the assistant superintendent. It's data they had already. So basically what Jerry had to do is he had to look at a report from the state and type a figure into this report. So that's literally what most of your time was spent doing, was regurgitating data that they had already.
Correct. They owned everything, and basically we had 2 reports run, and we had to basically re-enter the same data that we pushed up to them in the past. So,
and
very
we thank
interesting.
we thank our BOCES partners for actually running the reports for us to make it very user friendly. So.
Is this data we could share? Could it possibly be put
Absolutely.
on our
So
website?
one hallmark of this board and this administration, and I think our PTA partners will tell you, is, when you look at our reports, we are transparent with our community. So I think that there is no harm in us posting this data on our website so our community knows exactly what was submitted to the state of New York, and you will be completely understanding exactly what will happen. And I will come back every meeting, and we could keep this as a standing item, and I'll report back what I'm hearing. I think that's there's no ever any harm in transparency. That's just kind of the way we've always done business here.
Thank you.
And for those of you that may be getting emails or listening to media from other school districts, and those who paid attention for the last 4 or 5 years, this is very similar to what happened with COVID, right? People were threatening to sue the state. They were telling districts not to send in their information. And Lynbrook always did what they were supposed to do, and those districts were no different than us. We always have made, our administration, this board has always made the smartest, most common sense decisions that kept us out of the limelight, kept us out of litigation, and kept us moving forward throughout the whole thing. So if you are getting information from other places, please attend these meetings and you'll have the most accurate information available to you.
Kind of going off of that, do we want to do something like write a letter in opposition to this, or do we kind of just want to?
I think we should write a letter, and I also think that it would be helpful, and I think that it should go to the regents and also all of the elected officials. I think that they all should be included, and I think maybe if we make a template so that the community can join in writing their own letters to help us.
Our politicians shouldn't get letters. They should be told and asked, what's your position on this? Because every time we ask them something, of course, they just nod and move on their way. They don't even address the issue. Who was at the legislative forum? We just had a legislative
We
forum.
could set up a meeting and all go to.
Unless there's a public and cameras there, what they tell us to me won't matter. What they need to do is come out and say, yes, this is ridiculous. We're not going to consolidate your school district, and I'll do everything I can not to make that happen. That's a simple email for them to answer on that question, which they don't do. But If you want to send a letter, we can come up with a letter. Is there consensus the board wants to send a letter to SCD?
Yeah.
There we go. Mrs. Tenino, you'll draft that?
With your help, yes.
There's enough people on this board, it'll get drafted. But I think Ms. Danino had a really good idea that in addition to just the board sending a letter, which is a great idea, and we should because other districts are doing it and we should lend our support, I can't believe I'm going to quote Billy, but it is really about the elected officials who are out there because they're the people who can really make a difference here. So instead of us writing, which we should do also, people really do need to reach out to their elected officials, Republican, Democrat, Independent, doesn't matter. Express how you feel about this issue, this specific issue, because this probably touches more people directly than a lot of other things that happen in Albany. And we really should let them know how we feel about it.
Moving on to, we good? You got something else on this one?
Well, we're still on the old business.
Well, I still got to, do you want to hit the blue, we still got to hit blue ribbon.
So just, we kind of like been tangentially talking about the same items. So in the same week that the state did, the regions met on last Monday, and they actually were presented the plan for the Blue Ribbon Commission as to the phase-in of this program, which Mrs. Kelly and I were just talking about. So we basically what they've talked about, it's going to happen in a couple of steps. So as I said, the class of 2026 will be the last class under the old regime. And then what will start to happen is it will start to slowly but surely decrease the credit requirements. They will start to, I like this phrase, decouple the regions from graduation requirements. So right now, there are two ways that you have to get out of high school. You have to attend school and you have to pass regents. They're going to take away the have to pass regents requirement and make it just attend school. In addition, they're going to be creating a single diploma where right now we have multiple diplomas. There'll be one diploma, some with distinctions, some with different seals on it. Actually, I'm very proud of the work that we're doing here at Lynbrook High School. One of the things that every district has to do now is adopt the profile of the graduate. Check. We kind of did that last year. We have to start to talk about revamping curriculum. We're kind of undergoing that. And then the one thing that I thought was really interesting is eventually, though, it's heading to what's called a single transcript. So no longer will you have a Lynbrook High School transcript. You will have a State of New York transcript. And why that gets to be a little bit concerning to me, and I don't know whether the kids would care about this, but we can no longer require something like writing lab. We can no longer require something like community service. Anything that was particular to us, we can still offer it. We can still say, hey, kids, community service is a great thing to do, but we cannot make it a requirement for graduation. So it's all moving towards that single transcript.
But it could get its own seal if you get that.
You can,
no?
yes, and that is what we're moving to. So, there are some great ideas that I think the high school will be unveiling. We can certainly have a seal of community readiness, and kids who do service get a seal. We could have a seal of dramatic arts and all the kids that up here, so I don't want to think that it's just a very different way of doing things. It's kind of saying, what the regents will say. The system that we're currently using was invented in 1904 for an industrializing society. You just saw them up here singing and dancing. This is an information society. How do we design an education system? And we are already kind of in this work. It's about focusing not on, those of you who are old like me, teachers taught classes. We were taught in groups of 30. Now it's about teaching the kid. What does this kid need? I think the parents out there are like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then we would start to maybe great opportunities. Kids learn a certain Adobe suite, and we can say they are Adobe certified. So there's lots of good that can come out of this, but it's just it's on a pathway to a very different style of education.
It does really look like they're taking the individuality out of each district, though.
So I think this would be depending on how well we do it, and we're at a crossroad. I have confidence in this district, in our administration, and in our teachers, is that if we say, I don't think you know me. I'm not ready to give up Owldom. I will be the last person that gives up Owldom. We know what this thing of ours is. And if we don't embed that in our curriculum and we seal it, we may have a seal of the owl. And the seal of the owl says, these are kids who are good and kind and rake leaves for old people and do all the things that this community has always valued. And I think, as you've been all saying, why do people move here? Because you don't, yes, we have an awesome drama program, we've got an awesome sports program, we have an awesome academic program. We got great kids. I always say to every parent out there, you do children well in this district. And I think that thing we don't want. I'm going to die on that hill. I'm going to tell you that, you know, I'm the guy that's going to die on that hill, that we will continue to be the Owls, one way or the other. That
It
has
just
to be.
seems so much like the regionalization is tied to that.
Yeah.
I mean, saying it like that
Right,
just
and
makes you.
when you hear regionalization and what all the people are saying is the concern that this is like a stealth way of combining districts, and now, oh, look at this, coincidentally, we're going to have a New York State diploma instead of a Lynbrook diploma eventually, you start to see the pattern forming here.
Right. I mean, I understood when I read or heard on some seminar that they said, you know, you could move in junior year and go from this district to that district, and it doesn't matter, and your diploma would be your diploma, but you could do that now.
Today, yeah.
So, to me, that's bull.
I hit it all?
Sure. So just to give people a sense of things in order quickly here. So for this school year, the first big change is that there will be an exemption. We're not really sure exactly what it's going to look like, but for the Regents exams, if you have a major life event, you may be exempt from your Regents exams. In the past, if you missed the June Regents, you had to retake in August, January, whatever it may be. There will be some flexibility. In 26-27, so 2 school years from now, everyone will be required to offer financial literacy and climate education. Details to hopefully be shared next school year, what that would look like. 27-28, all ninth graders would be required to take 1 CTE credit, so that's one of your career technical education credits. That's when the Regents exams start to sunset, and that one diploma that Dr. Lynch was talking about comes into play. And 29-30 is when it all comes in. So that's your new system, your new transcripts, your learning standards, and when the portrait of the graduate matters. So back to what Dr. Lynch said before, right now we have 2 different checklists to graduate high school. You have credits and you have exams. In the future, you're going to have learning standards and your profile of your graduate. And how you meet those standards is up for discussion. You know, hopefully we'll get more clarity next school year is what they're saying. Thank you.
When you say climate education, is that so they know that when it's cold out, they should wear a hat and they'll dress properly? Or what do you
I would
anticipate?
assume that's going to be more about your global climate change. That would be my assumption, but again, I don't
And
have
they're
details
not going
on
to
that.
fund that, right? That's something we have to fund and do ourselves.
I would assume, again, that is the case, but we will see. It's a to be continued.
And I just want to assure you, I think our science department kind of already teaches certain scientific facts. That's just what scientists do.
I think I'm the only one up here who will have a child going through that new profile, 2032.
Did we do state aid? You want to hit state aid?
I do. So what I don't want lost in this conversation, because I think sometimes it could be like, whoa, like, well, look it up. Oh, look over here, look over here, look over here. Foundation aid. The one thing I have heard clearly is they're not going to be giving us the money that we need to properly fund the budget next year. And I have to say, Mrs. Aragona and Mrs. Danino, we attended a legislative forum at Malvern High School yesterday. Only 2 legislators attended and a staff member of another one. So yes, our new Assemblywoman-elect Griffin was there.
That meeting was originally scheduled before the election, right?
Correct.
Yeah, why would they show up then?
Yeah. So the one thing they made clear, and I'm going to talk to our, your PTA partners are here. We need to make, so my concern is everyone in this corner of Nassau County, we're what's called mid-wealth districts. I think mid-wealth districts could be in real jeopardy. We know that we're the dead 50%. We're half of the county is richer than us, and half of the county is poorer than us, and our aid has always been adjusted to that. What is happening, though, where did school security come from? And how? So this foundation aid formula is from 2007, using data from 2007. You tell me what Lynbrook High School looked like in 2007, because I don't know. I wasn't here. That's how long ago it was. We're now spending $700,000 a year in school security that we never had to do before. We are seeing, as you saw, well, there was no one in the audience, but Mr. Press gave something on September 25th, which showed the skyrocketing costs of special education. And I'm proud to say we are building programs here. We're not necessarily sending kids out, but guess what? Those are expensive programs to run because of the ratios that have to be provided. That's nowhere in the formula. We are servicing more L's, English language learners, than we haven't had. That is not in the formula. So there's so much that is not accounted for. And on December 1st, after all of this stuff, they are going to release a new foundation aid formula. We have no idea which way that's going to cut. So we are going to need, and I sound like the boy who cried wolf. We really need PTA's support. We really need people to go to Albany. We may need busloads to go to Albany. We may need to land in front of Assemblywoman Griffin's office and Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick's office. We may need to do a mobilization that says, we need this to just, because otherwise I don't want to paint a horrible picture here, kids, but it's about cutting programs. That's what I'm talking about, is cutting programs. And we have been so good about not doing that, that we need to just make sure, because, as I said at the forum the other day, we can either raise your taxes. Oh, no, we can't, because we can only do that to 2%. We can use our reserves. Oh, no, we can't, because there's a bunch of rules around them that they only let us use them when we want to use them. Or we depend on state aid. Oh, no, we can't, because we're now going to change the formula for mid-wealth districts. Show me where the money's coming from. That's what I'm concerned about. And if I sound like I think I told the board this, I hope I'm crying wolf. I hope you all laugh at me and say, ha ha, you jerk, you had it all wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. That's my thought. So
even if
if
you're wrong, we would never speak to you that way.
What's that?
We would never speak to you that way if you're wrong.
Not you, Mr. Belmont.
Not publicly.
Can I say a few things? I've been going to Albany for years to fight for foundation aid and lobby on that. That's a big thing as a teacher that we go and lobby on every year. And, they finally made it, gave us a lot more to then now cut it back and reevaluate, which is looking so doom and gloom. But we have to keep in mind, as we've said before, about those unfunded mandates. And one of the things that came out, a couple of things that came out from the forum that we were at the other day, besides the poor attendance of the legislators there, was a couple of things. The unfunded mandates, the security, we did say that the elected officials should really come into our buildings and see the special ed programs that we have here and how wonderful they are, but the cost that comes along. They should see the security measures and the cost that comes along. So they really know what they're talking about, because I know from when we go to lobby, it's the stories. So when they're talking to the governor, they need to, portray that message and let her know that. In addition, another big issue on Long Island is going to be the charter schools. It's starting to affect us, but they are looking and putting in to get more and more charter schools here. They do not have the same oversight as we do in the public schools, and yet they are taking the same money. And that is a real concern for us that we all have to be cognizant of, and it affects our funding. And we have to watch that. The person up in SUNY who approves those is John King, the same person we had issues with the testing all those years ago. I don't know why he keeps going up in his position, but he's wreaking havoc on the education world over and over. So that's something we have to be aware of and just watch how those charters impact us and the oversight of that.
And I would be remiss, because I do want to piggyback on Mrs. Danino. So I see Mr. Kirschenberg's being hidden behind the podium here. And our PTA partners and our LTA partners, we're on the same page on this one. And I think this is a really great collaboration.
I just want to kind of add on to what Dr. Lynch said. Even one of the elected officials at the forum kept saying, it's so important we write letters, we show up, because the more people that advocate for the fact that we need more money, it's, we have to show up in numbers and let them know like what the schools need, because, well, only 2-3 of them showed up, but we need a bigger presence.
Moving on. So we have the law got changed as of July 2025. We have to have student participation in the school boards. If you attended last month, you knew we discussed that. Mr. Cornicello's AP government class would like to present their thoughts on the topic regarding how we should handle that and who should be part of it. So they've asked to come in next month to do that. So we will give them privilege of the floor next month to discuss that. I just remembered, I would have been remiss. Sal's not here, right, Matt? So Mr. Brescher, actually, I had my 20th high school reunion 2 weeks ago, and Mr. Brescher came. Yeah, I'm lying. It was my 40th high school reunion. But nobody really nodded their head, so I feel good about that. But I just wanted to say I should have done it when he was here, so I apologize. But Mr. Brescher was great. He came in on a Saturday, and as they do for every union class, if you have your union, they will give you a tour of the high school. So obviously, many of my classmates who had come back had not been here in decades, so it was nice of Mr. Brescher. Mr. Sorosi, I know you worked with some of my classmates to arrange it, so thank you both for that. Under new business, Dr. Lynch, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Belmont. So we have our 3 board goals, and I'm going to update you on those. So our first board goal was to impact the profile of the OWL and make it an operational reality in the school. So I'm happy to say we had a superintendent's conference day where we reflected on the profile of the OWL, and we started to actually have departments and the grade levels do some work surrounding it. So we had such great topics. So our some of the stuff I thought was great. So kindergarten teachers and our first grade teachers started to talk about bringing play back into the curriculum, and I just think that was such a good thing to look at. We had our higher level elementary people looking at the impact of AI on education. We had our occupational therapists and our speech therapists and our social workers and our guidance counselors and psychologists get together and do some articulation surrounding what needs to happen for the kids. And then at the secondary level, each of our departments broke off. I actually led the one with the English department, and we discussed about what the future of writing should look like, not just in English, but across the curriculum. And we had some really great professional dialogue surrounding that. We had more work with AI at the secondary level. We had our art. So part of the new graduation standards is to do more interdisciplinary work. So our art teachers and our social studies teachers went to the Met together to talk about how to take certain art works and embed it into the history curriculum. So that's just the stuff I'm thinking of. So we're starting to do the work of the profile of the OWL. It was a very robust program. I thank everyone. Thank Dr. Blex. I thank Mr. Sorosi, the principals, really, and the department chair people, and the teachers who were just really. We set the stage on Superintendent's Conference Day. I have a working philosophy that teacher empowerment is the answer to all our curricular issues. And we started to ask for teacher empowerment, and we started to get to the point where teachers started to say, here's what we need to do. Here's how we need to raise the bar. And I love this expression that came almost organically from the teachers, but we've kind of capitalized it. The idea of productive struggle. That learning involves raising a bar and struggling a little bit. You almost, not that I'm the great weightlifter, but imagine if I were. Okay, you know how you just kind of want to tire the muscle out just enough. Same thing with the brain. You want to tire it out just enough. And then to be able to have our social workers and our psychologists hand in hand make sure that, that can hurt sometimes. Sometimes, kids like to be perfect, and they may need to reflect on that. So that all kind of has been going on and will continue to go on. So that was goal 1. Goal 2 is to create a multi-tier system of supports when it comes to social emotional learning. That's a lot of blah, 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 which means we just want to make sure we know what all kids get in terms of social emotional learning, what targeted kids get, and then what highly targeted kids get. So we've been talking about that, and we were proud to roll out with the school and community committee. So as members of our PTA are out there who are our partners with this, we did a major launch of the Northwell program. So we were able to, we thank PTA for PTA University. Fascinating night to have a psychologist here from Northwell for free, or not for free, for the price that we pay for our entrance fee. And then really we were able to launch a website, which if you haven't seen it yet, please see it. The fact that, while, we think the best way for your kid to get mental health support is to start with your school staff. But now everyone in this room has access to a crisis center in Rockville Center, that you just need to call them up and say, my kid goes to the Lynbrook schools, I need help with this. And they will help you out. And just one thing, we need to mention that's for everybody in the community, including our non-public school kids. So that's just something that we should get out there. So I thank our school and community committee for the feedback on the website. We started with one that was kind of boring and kind of factual, and so we had to jazz it up a little bit to look at it from a parent perspective to say, all right, my kid's in crisis. What do I need? I don't have time to go through a bunch of PDF flyers to find out stuff when my kid needs help. So we tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. You know us, we're open to feedback. If you think there's something we can change, we'll be happy to change. So that was goal 2. And goal 3, Mr. McDermott, communications is meeting next Monday. So we'll be moving forward with that. I think that will be a new website is coming. That's winter is coming. The new website is coming. And then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Balekis for the elementary report card.
Thank you, Dr. Lynch. All right, popping up. So we had done work prior to COVID about trying to change our report card and give out a little bit more information, both numerical and in the comment sections. The communication committee during COVID met a lot about trying to change the way that we communicate with our families, and those conversations after COVID led to our adoption of Parent Square. The two conversations at some point merged so that we are going to be bringing out our new report card through Parent Square. So what is that going to mean for people that want to view their report cards? You will receive a text message with a direct link. So if you click on the text message, that will take you directly to your child's report card. If you did not opt into text messaging using Parent Square, it is pretty easy. If you did download the app, there's a little icon at the bottom. It says alerts. It will highlight with a little red number there. Depending on how many children you have, you'll have that many alerts. If you click on the alert icon at the bottom of your cell phone, you will be getting a document that says View Document, which will put you to a PDF of your child's report card. There may be a little bit of confusion. This is what I wanted to make sure people did hear. If you have multiple students in the district, this is a way that we are pushing out the elementary report cards. If you happen to be in the high school with your high school kids account, you may need to switch the school to get to the correct alert. So if you are looking and wait a second, where's my kid's report card? You may not be in the correct school. Change it in the drop-down menu to the elementary child's school, and you should be able to view the document. Once you click on it, you will see things that, like I said, are new features. So one of the parts of the report card, as we talked about with the profile of the OWL, we will be talking about soft skills. So it's not going to be just academics anymore. There will be more specificity, which means that there will be more categories that students will be judged in, and personalized feedback where there will be comments from teachers, not only the classroom teacher typing in everything for the entire building, but each of the generalists who are working with your student will have an opportunity to comment as well. So what does the report card look like? This is Dr. Balekis' fake child. So the school and the grades and the principals make no sense. The teacher happens to be our data person. Mrs. Dewar-Johnson helped build this basically pixel by pixel, so I thank her for her work here. But her name is in as my child's teacher. So Minnie test student attends the kindergarten center with Principal Gannon in 8th grade. So obviously none of this information is correct, but it does show what the formatting looks like. So if you need an explanation of levels, that's the first thing you will see. If you scroll down, you'll see all different components of the report card, starting with the attendance and some of the soft skills, working your way through all of the academics. At the very end, if your child receives support services, there will be comments for any of the general ed supports. Any of these special ed supports would come in a separate document. But really, the report card does scroll very nicely. If you are not a fan of technology, or you just prefer to have a hard copy in your hands, please just contact the school and they'll be able to provide one of those as well. Thank you.
And you'll be putting out a parent square so that the whole district knows about this?
Correct. We will be putting out a parent square sometime before the end of the week so that everybody knows that this is coming. You know, obviously this would not happen until the end of the marking period, but we did want to let people know about it sooner rather than later so they would not be shocked.
Have a big portion of our parents downloaded the app and they're using it?
We have like a 98% reach.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's been remarkable, yeah. And Mr. Press, capital projects.
Thank you, Dr. Lynch. Just some quick updates on what's been going on. For those who were at homecoming, you may have seen the new concrete ramps. Very exciting things. Put some new concrete ramps there, primarily to make the field area a little bit more accessible. What you may have seen is there were no railings there. We were waiting on those to come in. So those finally came in. So all the work at Marion Street is now complete. The lights are functional and everything is good there. We've just received today, actually, the plans for the next part of our capital project. So that's the restrooms here at the high school, restrooms at admin, and some repointing work over at Marion Street. So those will be reviewed and we'll get them signed and we'll get them up to Albany. One of the concerns we have, and somebody maybe want to distract Mr. Belmont, the review time up at the state these days for capital projects is about 9 months, which is utterly ridiculous. But that is what it is as of today. I checked the SCD website. What that means at this point is when we get these plans submitted, we're probably not going to get an answer until August, which means we missed the entire summer. The state has reinstituted third-party review. I don't know if anyone recalls that. It was a process that was in place a few years ago that went away, where districts could pay for a fee. SED would outsource the review process to architectural firms. It speeds up the process considerably. We are seriously interested in doing that. The cost of doing it would be about $13,000. The cost of not doing it would mean we'd probably have to wait another summer or another year before we could bid this out. And with the rates of inflation that we're seeing in construction, it will cost us a lot more than $13,000 at that point in time. So we are recommending that we do third-party review to get this review done. We don't know. They haven't told us how long that process is, but we have been told it's considerably faster because SED is short-staffed, but if they can bring in outside architectural firms to do this, and I actually did this, I'm not sure if this has been done here.
We did it for the
Okay.
the HVAC.
Yeah, and I did it in my previous district, and the response was much, much quicker. So that is our recommendation.
So these projects would be the doors for West End and Marion Street and the lavatories here?
It's not, the doors have already been.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
lavatories?
it's the lavatories
Okay.
here, admin, and the repointing.
So while it is infuriating, and just to add, while we're going to pile on NICEAD, the fact that it's going to cost us $13,000 to get the work done, we don't want to do that expense without checking with you, if that's.
I mean, notwithstanding the fact that after 8 months, our other project was 18 months, goods and labor could cost more. But do you understand that, like, you approved that project? We hired, like, real professionals, like architects, people that do that for a living, to come up with those plans to do that project. And then we send it up to Albany to sit there for 8 months because they're short-staffed, just to come back and say you could do that project. It's ridiculous. But we keep talking about every meeting, every year. Decades I've been doing this. Okay, keep doing it. We good?
That's it.
Election was the time to make a difference was the election. Last week was the time to hound those people on whatever your main issue was, whatever your political issue was. That was the time to go tell them to make a difference in it. Now we're chasing the 8 ball again, chasing them now to get money back. So as we move on to new business, if everyone could just take a second and just look at Mr. Brescia, because he was not here when I gave him that compliment, so he knows I said nice things about you, Mr. Brescia. And you may not have seen it, but this meeting is recorded, so if you go back tonight and show the wife and kids, they'll know someone loves you. Under public comment, if anyone...
Can I take...
Yes, please, jump on that bandwagon.
I did forget, I will be dead if I don't say this reminder. Our Powder Puff game is this Saturday at Marion Street. 1:15 is the ceremony. 2 o'clock is the actual game, and that's to raise funds for breast cancer.
At this time, if you'd like to make public comment, you can come to the podium, identify yourself, and indicate to the board if you live in or out of district. Oh, I can't see.
My name is Cece Farr, and I am in Mrs. Postelakwa's 4th grade class at West End. I am here today to talk to you about recycling in Lynbrook schools. I have noticed that in West End there are not many recycling bins in the classrooms, and there are none in the lunchroom. I asked my friends at Marion and Waverly, and they said the same thing at their schools too. There are no recycling bins in the lunchrooms at any of our elementary schools. My friends are in 6th grade at North, and they say that there's a bin for plastic bottles in the lunchroom there, but it's tucked in the corner and no one at the school has ever pointed it out or told them to use it. My brother told me North now has fruit seltzers at school that come in plastic bottles, but everybody just throws the bottles away in the trash cans, not the plastic recycling bin. My brother and his friends also go to the middle school teen nights, and they say they're not allowed to bring their reusable water bottles there. They have to bring plastic ones instead. They showed me the teen night flyer, and it even says this on there. Why are we making Lynbrook owls by single-use plastics? My friend at South said that he doesn't think there's any recycling bins for plastic bottles in the lunchroom there at all. So if there is one, some of the kids don't even know that it exists. I think that this needs to change. At lunchtime every day in all of our schools, many students get milk cartons and juice boxes. Why don't we have a recycling bins for these in the elementary schools? Also, everyone who ordered lunch gets a plastic spork, a plastic straw, wrapped in a plastic bag. And these things all get thrown in the trash every single day. This is not okay. Many places in the United States have laws against plastic straws. Even in New York City and Suffolk County, this plastic is going into our oceans, killing marine life and creating microplastics in our food. Environment America reported that every student who eats a school lunch every day produces about 67 pounds of waste in 1 year. That means that at West End students are producing about 2.5 tons of lunchtime trash this year. And that's just the kids who get the school lunch. There are tons and tons of additional trash coming from the kids who bring their own lunch from home. And the same thing is happening at all the other schools. It's just going into the exact same bin every day. We need to do better, and we can do better. In elementary school, we learn about reducing, reusing, and recycling every April around Earth Day. I think this is something that needs to happen all year round. Lynbrook students need to learn habits like recycling when we're young before it's too late. If we start to build these habits in kindergarten and elementary school, by the time we get to the middle schools, we won't even need reminders anymore because it will just be something that we do. No one will have to point out the recycling bin in the lunchroom because we'll be looking for it. The good news is that there's already a plastic recycling bin in the lunchroom at North, and I've seen that there's also one here in the high school. So if it's already happening at 2 of our Lynbrook schools, I hope that means that we can make it happen at all of them. I made a chart of some of my ideas for how Lynbrook elementary schools and middle schools can become more environmentally friendly at lunchtime, and I have copies for all of you. I hope you will take time to think about this, please. Thank you for listening.
So before you hand this to us, because this is recorded, yeah, right here, me. That's me. What's your name again?
Cece,
And what grade are you in?
4th.
Fourth. So if you were on the ballot last week, I would have voted for you. So most people come up here and tell us about a problem and just leave it like that. And the way you fix things in life is to talk about a problem and then identify the solution for it. So that was extremely impressive, extremely well presented. And I agree with everything you say, and I put it on Dr. Litch to implement it. So.
And I'm going to put it on Mr. Seda over there, who I already eyeballed him. So I'll get. So I'm going to have to. There are two things that we can do immediately. So recycling bins, Jim, are fairly easy. That one we could fix, and I think you're totally right. So that's something that we could get sooner rather than later. But there's one thing that you mentioned that's just a little bit more complicated, so I want to be very upfront with you as to why it's a little more complicated. When it comes to the forks and the knives, you're absolutely right. You're 100%. But we partner with another company, and they do the forks and the knives, and so it's part of a business deal. So we would need to make that part of our next business deal with them. So we can't do that immediately. That has to come up, like with a business contract. So when the business contract comes up, we can address that with them. But Mr. Seda, everything else pretty much, and then and don't worry, Mr. Freifeld will be getting a call about reusable bottles at the teen center. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll take a look. But yes, you did a great job, and you made a lot of sense to me. It made a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Thank you, Cece.
Hi, everybody. Ivy Riley. Well, today is World Kindness Day.
Ivy, that's a tough act to
Sorry.
follow, I'm just going to say.
I was going to say, before you say anything, today is World Kindness Day, and it's the easiest thing in the world right now for me to do an act of kindness by just saying how Cece is specifically the portrait of the owl, right? Like, she is what Lynbrook produces and what Lynbrook is proud of. So, thank you, Cece. That was a great presentation. And one of the reasons that PTA is always advocating for our kids, because we have kids like that. And she wins all these awards through PTA and in the school and whatever, because, Lynbrook gets our kids to think differently. And it's just something we're really proud of. So as I stand up today as the legislative chair of Lynbrook High School PTA, I want to switch hats for 1 second and put on my council cap and thank everybody who attended Parent University for the first time. It's a brand new journey that we're going on. We're trying to change it up and get more involvement. We're actually kind of going with, instead of a parent university kind of thing where parents are being schooled, we're trying to make it more into a family and community engagement academy where people feel like they can come and they can learn and they can relate to each other and be more community inclusive. So we got some really great response as far as how many people showed up to our first Parent University of the year. Excuse me, I haven't been feeling well, so I apologize. But our first event of the year, our collaboration with Northwell and with Mrs. Bryce, who is such a fabulous addition to this school district. And we, at PTA, we are seeing how much she is going to be bringing to our students, and we are just really proud that we can work with her. So our new collaboration, which we're saying is PTA and the school district, and and Northwell Health, and we're even pulling out SEPTA as a separate part of that because they do so many great things on their own schedule. So we want this to be a huge collaboration. So I just want to say that what we notice is that families really are interested in being engaged, and they're going to show up if we give them what we have to offer. We already have these resources, and with our new partnership with Northwell, that's going in the right direction. So thank you, everybody, for your support on that. And just to put it out there, because you asked for it, Dr. Lynch, if you are ever in need of the number for the Rockville Center office to get urgent care for your mental health challenge student, then you can call 516-927-1630. I'm just putting it on the record because it's all over the website now, it's everywhere, but we can't say it enough because we don't ever want to have to look for that phone number when we need it. So this weekend I am going to the New York State PTA Convention as a delegate for Lynbrook High School, and I wanted to mention that PTA is in the learning stages of this informational gathering about regionalization. I think that's the easiest way to put it. I did contact our local reps a couple of weeks ago, but it was right in the middle of election craziness, so I haven't heard back from them, but I will be following up with them. And I agree that Lynbrook should be proactive, and that's why we're here, and you can't really see behind me because everybody sits on the sides, but there's a lot of people here from PTA who are here just to listen, because we really want to know what we can do to be proactive, because like you said, we are afraid of local control being removed or redirected, because we know that foundation aid is so critical, and we've been fighting for it for years. We do have a really strong legislative committee through PTA that, even though it's kind of starts through council and the high school, we have people from some of our strongest PTA leaders are on that committee, and we meet with reps often, and Mrs. Zanino comes with us all the time as well. So we just want to make sure that it's known that we are in this same fight with you. We are looking to collaborate, and we appreciate that we can now choose to collaborate with other districts for resources and with BOCES, but without being told that we have to do it and how to do it. And again, it is a very political issue. Questionably how that's going to work out, we're not concerned with. We're just concerned what is best for our children, and to make sure that we keep our money in Lynbrook schools where it needs to be, since we're the ones paying our taxes and, standing up here advocating for our kids to get what they need. And Lynbrook has put in a lot of time and effort and energy in doing this right. So we're going to be behind you 100%, whatever this Board of Ed decides. We will hopefully be on the same page, and we will be able to support in any way. I do agree with that whole statement that everybody was saying, that we just need more people to come out, and when we send out letters and say, please send an email to your congressman, your state senator, your assembly rep, that we continue to look at those, make a phone call, even if the question is, what is your opinion on this, which is really what my question was to my reps when I emailed them a few weeks ago. I just want to know what their opinion is, so I know if I want to help them or let them know that I disagree. Right? And again, we're just too new into this to give an opinion, but I do want to mention that this is my second year as a parent committee member of the Blue Ribbon Commission, and I want to mention that Commissioner Rosa and Chancellor Young are on every single committee meeting that we've held, and never did I ever hear anything about the region sunsetting. In fact, everybody was kind of opposite of that. So I find it really interesting how we are part of the process, but are we? And I leave it there. But I want to hope that we continue to keep our high standards that we set at Lynbrook, and I have heard nothing but that from this board and from administration tonight, that we plan to continue to do what we do and make our owls our owls. And I think it would be very safe to say PTA is 100% behind you in keeping where we are. I do want to answer one question. The question about climate education refers to programming or rules referring to SEL and DASA and school safety, but doesn't refer to security measures that we put in place, because we have to have our security plans for the state, right? So the question before, I think Mr. Belmont had asked, was what is climate really, what does it mean really? And it has nothing to do with our security. Like you said, Dr. Lynch, they're not paying for our security. They just want to know that children feel safe. And I don't know what that actually means in the terms of having it be part of what our new curriculum is going to be. And I am eager to hear this weekend from New York State
and I
Department of Education about it.
Dr. Bless can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, so I think you're referring to the climate survey, which is part of the SEL side, which is how kids feel. And this regulation is about climate study, the scientific phenomena.
I'm not really sure, to be honest
Now
with
that
you.
you
because-
now that you're mentioning
Right,
it, I
I'm
think
not
I need
going
to
to
read.
deny
Yeah,
that
that's
because
how I read it.
this information was very
You know
sketchy,
what?
and we kind of put it as academic. But right, we may have read that incorrectly.
That would be really kind of
So
interesting.
lucky for me, it's right in front of
No,
me.
that's
But it is about the school culture and climate, the school climate and safety, when you're talking about the different, where they said the things that they want to have all students be able to pass. I don't even know what
well. Then I'm
language
happy to
use
say that's kind of
anymore.
included in goal 2. That
Right,
is
so
what the MTSS is about.
Financial literacy / climate education was the question that came up in a statement earlier. I wrote it down. But yeah, if you look in the student support services on the New York State Education Department, that's what it comes out as. And it goes to the climate and to that survey, right? So that I guess we just feel safe in our schools. That's what they're trying to get. I don't know. That's the whole thing is nobody really knows.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that when we see Commissioner Rosa and her people this weekend at convention, they will tell us something, because I attended that same event that many of you attended, and afterwards I watched it, and and it's the fact versus fiction, and I think the fact versus fiction is a little funky, and I don't know if it's really accurate. So I would just say, as a PTA, we're watching this very closely, and we are going to depend on our Board of Education elected officials to watch it very closely as well, and to help us to understand this process and what we can do to support everyone. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Ivy, I think you raise a good point. This is an opportunity for the board and the administration and the PTA and the LTA and everybody to work together, because I think we're all united in this goal here.
Since you mentioned the LTA, I figured I'd come on down. Craig Kirschenberg, President, Lynbrook Teachers Association. Every once in a while, an issue or issues comes along in which we are all in line. The teachers union, the PTA, district administration, the board, everybody. And Dr. Lynch, when you mentioned a bus trip to Albany, it brought back some memories. Yeah. 2013, I organized a bus trip. I was president back then too. We filled a bus, and it was teachers, and it was board members.
I learned a
Mrs.
lot about
Bresnahan
God
was
rest
on
her
the
soul,
bus.
Alice Marie Bresnahan's biography.
Yeah.
I sat next to her on a chair up there. It was awesome. It was awesome. We shared. We were bus buddies.
Yeah. And we filled the bus. You were there? Oh, yeah. Mrs. Zowie, were you there? We went to Albany for, I think we went to Skelos, right? So at the time, the issue, it was a combination of issues. At the time, that it kind of feels like we're dealing with the same kind of thing right now. Now, at the time, it was the tax cap and EPPR and the over-testing and, students more than a test score and that whole thing. I mean, that's right. And we had this whole mix of issues. And now, as you're going through everything before with the graduation measures and the regionalization and all that stuff, it kind of feels like here we are again. It's different issues, but it's the same song and dance to a slightly different tune. And I think we are once again all in line, the board, administration, LTA, PTA. So if anyone here is interested in a bus trip, hey, let's do it. Let's fill the bus. You mentioned before writing a letter from the board. The LTA would be happy to participate with you and do a joint letter if you're all into that.
I think that's a great idea.
Great. Thank you. We stand here and advocate, and sometimes we look at things from slightly different perspectives, but Cece, right? I mean, unbelievable, right? As an educator, you just kind of love seeing that. A problem solver. She brought a step stool. Right? Like problem solving on all levels. Love that. So this is why we do what we do. Sometimes we look at things from a slightly different point of view, but it's about advocating so we can have our local control to be able to provide the services that we want to be able to provide for the students of Lynbrook. And with this whole regionalization thing, it got crazy. It's still quite the storm out there. Mrs. DeNino mentioned a couple of meetings that she attended. I too have attended a couple of those meetings. We're at some of these same meetings. I've stood up at a couple of those meetings to try to put pressure on our state union representatives to get the state to walk some of this stuff back. And some of the frequently asked, the state ed put out an FAQ, and those frequently asked questions, their responses seem to walk some of that stuff back a little bit. I hope when they come out with additional regulations or whatever they're going to come out with in January, I hope they don't force us to do anything, because us being able to maintain our local control, we're all on the same page there. So in any way that the LTA can be an ally to do this, we're here. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Seeing nothing else from the audience.
Hi, it's Mary Beth Stalter. I am a resident. I wanted to say, I think you found somebody who can teach your climate class, see, probably, or at least maybe be the student board member. But I'm here to actually say thank you to the district and the board and everyone who supported our Fly with the Owls 5K for the PTA scholarship funds. It was an amazing day, and it could only have been made possible with the help of the district, the village, the fire department. I mean, it was just really a true community effort, and we really appreciate it. And we hope to see more of you next year doing the walk or run, whatever you choose.
I walked.
But we just really want to say thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else, moving on with the meeting. We have two donations this evening. The board gratefully acknowledges and accepts 2411G1, a donation of materials in the amount of $500 from Friends of Lynbrook Music to be used for outfitting the dressing rooms in the Lynbrook High School Theater with hooks, storage cubes, shelving, and fans. Also, a donation of dictionaries valued at approximately $1,200 for every third grader who attends Lynbrook Public Schools from the New York Elks Lodge. Number one. Consent agenda. I'd like to ask for consent agenda on resolutions 2411C1 through 2411C5, 2411NC1 through 2411NC13, and 2411G1 through 2411G29. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Pileski. Second, Mr. Lunar. All in favor? Pass. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Mrs. Danino. Second, Ms. Aragona. All in favor? That's it. Everyone be safe. Our next meeting is on December 11th.